Okay, now that you know all the different parts of the STD of the sine and cosine function and all of its transformational equations, right? This is the STD, and obviously these are all the ways that we can transform and how the STD form, when transformed, should be written, okay? Personally, I think I've pointed out that I like this guy here, okay? This guy is your best buddy, okay? It shows you clearly. Now, please cross-check your notes with Ms. Chang's for this section here. Now we're going to work on part 3. Now, part 3 is pretty easy if you understand all the parts, but identifying them and really understanding and feeling and what they're visualizing what they should look like is going to be the trickiest part for you, okay? Now, let's go ahead and identify amplitude, period, frequency, midline. Now, frequency is also very tricky, but also very, very, like it's going to be really nice for you to understand frequency so you know exactly what the graph should look like and what you should expect from the graph. Midline is describing transformations, okay? Finding the amplitude, frequency, midline, let's do it, okay? Remember, it's related to this STD right here, okay? All right, so let's look at number 11, okay? Remember, all the different parts of peanut butter, duh, right? Remember that, okay? If you don't want to do it that way, it's okay with me too, okay? I'm not offended. Now, okay, so we have y equals 3 cosine 2x. Let's identify all the parts. We're just identifying. Peanut butter, duh, okay? A peanut butter, so it's going to be y equals a cosine bx, right? Okay, so it's going to be a, amplitude is 3. Now, amplitude, it's the height from the midline to the max or the min, right? So just remember the amplitude is the height between the mid to the max or the min, okay? Period. Period is 2 pi over b. I'll just write that for now. And the b is 2. Now, if you want, you could write this as cosine 2. Oh, sorry, I don't like that. Cosine, if you want, you could write it. Oh, man. Okay. Oh, sorry. 3 cosine 2x if you want. You could remove the 2, leave it outside, and you'll see why that's kind of helpful later, okay? So 2p over b is 2. So, oh, sorry. Our b is 2, sorry. Our b is 2, so I was going ahead, right? So 2 pi, and our b is 2. So it's going to be pi. Now, what does that mean? We'll talk about that after we identify the D. The D is, of course, the midline, which means y equals 0. The midline should be an equation of a line, so we should write it as y equals 0. You're right, the D is 0. Therefore, the midline is y equals whatever that D is. Okay? Now, let's talk about this period being pi and this frequency. It's weird that the letter B stands for frequency, like F, right? Frequency, okay? Why is that, right? It's because of this. It's basic. It means in the STD form of a sine graph, in an STD form of a sine graph, right? STD form of a sine graph looks like this. In 2 pi, it looks like this. You remember this? Oh, this is a cosine graph. I'm so sorry. Remember, a cosine graph and sine graphs are they're relatives, right? They're like sisters and brothers. One starts somewhere else, and one starts at a different point, okay? This is a cosine graph. A cosine graph, you know that starts at the max, and it goes to the max. Max to the max, okay? Max to the max. And you know, STD, so it's going to go from -1 to 1. And we know why, too, because a cosine ratio is always between -1 and 1, because it's always going to be a small over the hypotenuse, right? The leg over the hypotenuse. Anyways, chicos, you know how in STD, one cycle ends in 2 pi days, right? 2 pi, okay? But if it's pi, that means one cycle actually ends at pi. One complete cycle from max to max will end in just pi. So the period is shorter. What does that mean? That means in 2 pi, it happens how many times? It happens twice. That's the frequency. How frequent does it happen? In 2 pi. That's what that is saying. Does that make sense to you? So if we were to sketch this, I mean, you don't need to sketch it exactly, okay? If I was to sketch this, here's what it would look like. Half of 2 pi is pi, right? That means in just pi, in our new graph, in just pi, it's going to complete the cycle. That means this. Let's actually do it this way. I think it's going to be easier. Watch this. In 1 pi, that happened. The one cycle was completed in 1 pi. But if I were to stretch this graph out, that means in 2 pi, it's going to happen twice. There's 2 cycles Oh my God, this would be the worst for girls, right? You have twice. It happens twice. It happens to you twice in just 2 pi days. That's what that's saying. Does that make sense to you? I love knowing that's what frequency is because it allows me to know exactly whether something got longer or shorter, like one cycle got longer or shorter. Also, it helps me sketch real easily. Okay, let's go to the next one, number 47. Okay, this one's interesting too. This one's a cosine graph. Let's actually go to, so wait, if I ask you the question for this question here, right? Is it a good thing? Does it happen more frequently or less frequently? Of course, the 2 tells you right away. The B allows you to know that it happens way more frequently. How many times? It doubles. It doubles the number of cycles. Let's go to the next one, 47. Okay? Let's go to 47. Now, 47, let's do the same basics, okay? Peanut butter, duh. Okay? Amplitude, 3. Period, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go like this, 3 cosine. I'm going to take out the 2 pi over 3. Please get into the habit of doing that. You'll see why. Okay, B is 2 pi over 3, and D is 2 pi over B is your period, right? That's the formula. And then D is 0. That means the midline is y equals 0, okay? There's no shifts up and down in this cases, okay? Now, amplitude is 3, period is 2 pi over B, and that means 2 pi over B. Let's complete that. Oh, shoot. Sorry. 2 pi over B, that means it's going to be like this, right? It's going to be 2 pi over 2 pi over 3. Yikes! So what's that going to be? It's going to be a 3. A period is 3. That means the length of one cycle, a cosine function looks like this, right? Okay? Okay, now a cosine graph, it ends at 3. That means it goes on for 3. That's what that's saying. It ends at 3, okay? Now, it starts at the max, it ends at the max at 3, okay? Now, the frequency tells you, what does that mean? That means in 2 pi, it happens 2 pi over 3 times. But you remember, 2 pi over 3 has a value. It's 2 times pi, which is 6.28-ish, right? Divided by 3. Okay, so if I were to plug this into a calculator, you know what that 2 pi over 3 actually means? 2 pi, 2 pi divided by 3, it means it happens about 2.094 times. What does that mean? It means in 2 pi, this cycle of this max to max will happen 2 and a little bit more. So here's what it means. Let's actually sketch this a little quick. Oh, sorry, this is so ugly. I'll erase that. Okay, this one's a little bit trickier, okay? In 2 pi, because 2 pi is about 6.28, right? How long is one cycle? It's 3 long. So, you know, if I were to divvy this up, I'll leave this as, what's 1, 3? I'll leave this as 6. And whatever's left is, let's say, it's 2.28, okay? That means in just 3, it's going to go like this, 1 and negative 1, okay? That's one cycle. What's the next cycle? It's going to go one cycle more, right? That's 2 cycles, and it's going to go a little bit like until 2. I mean, I've exaggerated the space, of course. Please don't be offended. But what I'm trying to tell you is that the frequency tells you how many times it occurs in 2 pi, okay? But each cycle is 3 long, okay? Try the rest here, and honestly, you guys, when you're doing this section, all you have to know is how to identify, okay? Just focus on the identifying part. If you don't know how to sketch just yet, it's totally okay, because we're going to start sketching later, okay? Go ahead and try the next parts too, and cross-reference with my notes, okay? It should be pretty easy. You can see that this one, I could ask you the question this. Does it happen more? Is it more frequent or less frequent? Obviously, the 3 would allow you to know that 3 is the frequency, therefore it happens more often. How about this guy? Pi over 4 is about 3.14-ish divided by 4. It only happens, that means every cycle got shorter because it's pi over 4, which is 3.14 divided by 4, which is about 0.75. That means each cycle is about, it got slower, right? In 2 pi, it only shows up pi over 4 amount. That means it got shorter. So, I mean, each period got longer. Therefore, it happens less frequently in 2 pi. That's what that guy means. So I'll put a little corazon here, see if you understand that, okay? More frequent versus less frequent is what you have to understand here, okay? Good luck for this section, okay?